Good evening and welcome to Prime of Midlife. It's Monday night. We have survived the day at work. We have now had food and chocolate digestives. What can I say? It had to be done. And tonight I want to speak about a couple of things. I couldn't decide which one was most important, so I thought, well, I'll do both. The first thing I want to talk about is the fertiliser plant that is closing. Now, I did have notes, but they're on the computer and I haven't brought the computer through. So basically, if you remember last year, there was all the thing about the fertiliser plant closing and that there would be a huge CO2 shortage. So much so that the UK government spent millions, gave the company millions to keep one of the plants going. Because there's two plants owned by this company and they produce, I think, 60% of CO2. However, the production of the fertiliser is very energy heavy and they were like, we just can't afford this. So the government has helped them out. But now there was a report, I think it was the Chester Standard or something, and the company that wasn't subsidised by the UK government is now closing. So apart from the fact that that's over 200 jobs going, that is a loss of our CO2 capacity. Although the company have said that the cost of making fertiliser, which then gives us the byproduct of CO2, is really quite prohibitive and they may not manage to make as much. Although their profits this year seemingly went up by quite some margin, so I don't see how they're saying that. However, the whole reason I'm telling you this is because that means that there is going to be a big change to our shopping. Obviously, some of the first things you think of is beer, in my case, Diet Coke. Your fizzy juice that is canned here is going to be a bit of a problem if there is a CO2 shortage. But also your packaging for meat and fresh fruit and veg that's packaged in cellophane or film. They have CO2 put in them to keep the items fresh. And if there's a CO2 shortage, all that packaging is going to have to change. So yeah, that could be quite a thing. So my intention when I read that was to jump to Tesco. However, then it got to the tail end of the first day back at work and I was like, no, I'm not going. I will probably go some night this week. But that's what it made me think of was I need to go prep now. I need to go get some Diet Coke because I'm going to stash that. Get myself some ham, stick it in the freezer so that I can boil it up in the slow cooker and slice it myself for sandwiches later. Things like that. So that was my first thing was possible CO2 problems coming up in the year ahead. The second thing I thought of was when I was reading about the strikes that are going on. And obviously there's a barrister strike, there's a train strike, there's a refuse strike. There's so many strikes going on just now, which fair play to them. I absolutely support the workers. But I was looking at the one about Edinburgh, the refuse collectors, and they got offered 3%. I mean, 3%, really. Inflation is 10.1. And then now the company or COSLA, the what was it, union or association for local government, has offered them 5%. And you're like, oh well, okay, still not liking it, but but they haven't defined what the 5% entails and what you have to do for that 5%. And who's all getting it. So there's a lot, if you see the stories about what people have been, pay rises that people have been offered, take them with a pinch of salt if they're from the mainstream media. Because that one certainly, 3% up to 5%, and the media is shouting about how, the unions haven't even taken that to their members. Well, yeah, because you haven't defined the rules. You know, like the one where they said, oh, we've offered them 8%. They haven't offered them 8%. It's 4% this year, 4% next year. That's no 8%. So, yeah, there's things like that. So I was watching all that, and then North Lanarkshire Council, they put out the contracts for school buses and taxis and stuff, and they didn't get a big enough uptake on it. I'm presuming because they're still using last year's prices before the diesel went through the roof. So they don't have people applying for these contracts. So there was a whole lot of school children didn't get to school or didn't get transport to school. And now they've put out saying, right, we're going to pull off anyone who's qualified to be a driver, and we'll start doing these routes now. But that means that your bin collections are going to have stopped because we're taking the bin drivers off to do the school runs. And they're like, right, okay, I can deal with that. And then the wee thought came to me, I had a wee epiphany. I'm like, is it no time we just stopped doing all the rubbish and got back to what local government is supposed to do? Do you know, things like, I really, like, I want local government to make sure that my streetlights work. I want my rubbish picked up. Up here in Scotland, I want the snow cleared when it's 6 inches deep on the road. You know, I want my school to have teachers and lollipop ladies. And I want the building people, the building standards people, to actually have people there to make sure that the buildings are safe. Unlike the ones a few years ago when walls fell off schools. I mean, what is that about? I think now is the time for local government and probably main government as well to stop all their fancy stuff and just get back to basics and start with the very basics. And as I say, local government, main government, NHS. Now, the NHS is there to fix you. It's a safety net. It's there to fix you if you are broken, if you are dying, if you've had an accident. And I think what's happened over the last couple of decades is that local government, the NHS, all the sort of mainstream government agencies have stretched themselves so much that everyone's expecting everything, and it's not possible. So can we just go back to basics, please? And that will make me very happy. Because I'd rather have basics and cut everything else off just now. Like, see all your middle management that's there to make sure that everyone's happy and that everyone's got the right colour of paper and all that sort of stuff. Load of rubbish. Get my streets cleared. Get the bins emptied. Concentrate on what your basic skills are that need to be done and get them done. And then look at the amount of budget you'll have left. Do you know, get my potholes fixed in the road. Dear God in heaven. It's time we looked at that. So that was my other wee epiphany. So, yeah. That's my two things. Watch out for the CO2 shortages. And is it no time that local government and national government got back to basics instead of other fat arsing about with all the stuffs? That's the way I see it. So there you go. And oh, smug here. I have a little smug. My couch is cleared. I came home from work tonight having messaged Patrick saying I was going to Tesco and he was going to meet me there. And then I messaged him back going, nah, it's not happening. So when I pulled up, Patrick wasn't here yet. So I put the kettle on, as I do for the tea, and then I went and I cleared my couch. So I'm just looking at this wee whiteboard that we have over there, and I'm expecting a star chart to be on it tomorrow when I come home from work, with a star for the couch. And if he does, I'll show you a picture of it. So I hope you're having a good evening, and I will catch you later.